Welcome. First, let me introduce you to Axel, my virtual assistant, who's going to be reading to you the introduction of this book.
Hi, my name is Axel. And on behalf of the author, I will be the one reading the content of this book. I hope you enjoy it.
After he finishes with the introduction, I will say a few things, then I will read to you the conclusion of the book. Having said that, enjoy the introduction.
Introduction. Salvation is no more than a reminder this world is not your home. Its laws are not imposed on you, its values are not yours. And nothing that you think you see in it is really there at all. A Course in Miracles. My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight. The Bible. Comment. My personal story, taken from the original version, was shortened so I can address what I feel is important. In the end, the story is also irrelevant. Also, additional content was added before beginning with the introduction of A Course in Miracles. End of comment. Before we begin our journey together, I would like to share a bit about my background. Although I have been on a spiritual path my whole life, without even being aware of it. Around 1986, my healing process began. For me, it was not a choice I made based on inspiration or insight, but out of desperation and pain. I was involved in a very painful romantic relationship. And no matter what she said or did, it seemed impossible for me to be happy. Every prior relationship I had would bring up a lot of guilt and pain. And there was nothing I could do to rid myself of those painful feelings. In the midst of our despair, she happened to pick up the newspaper and saw an ad about some kind of mind control method. I did not know anything about the organization that was offering it. All I knew was that the words mind control captured my attention. My level of desperation was such that I didn't care how much it cost. All I knew was that anything that could help me get rid of the demons that plagued my mind would do. Because I had tried therapies in the past, and nothing worked for me. After attending that course, I was introduced to the practice of meditation. It was a 2-week class and my mind was so agitated, trying to quiet it only brought more and more frustration. However, something deep within forced me to continue practicing. It got to a point where I would meditate sometimes 5 times a day or more. Seminar after seminar I attended. I studied with some of the most influential people in the areas of religion, spirituality, metaphysics, quantum physics, business, relationships, and everything in between, which, by the way, I am extremely grateful for all those experiences because it was the curriculum I had to go through to be where I am. So, according to what I had learned, when I felt my life was not working, I was taught that I needed to do something to change it or fix it. But what if the reason my life was not working was because I was trying to do something to change it or fix it? And what if the change I so desperately wanted ends up being more disastrous than beneficial? The time came when I finally gave up. That's when I was ready. At the beginning, I said that in 1986, my spiritual journey began. The reality is that on November 2007, I did something I never imagined. I took everything I owned in the area of human, business, and spiritual development and gave it to the Salvation Army. On that day, my real commitment to spirituality happened. That is when I started to truly let go and let God. Through a series of events, I was led to the teachings of A Course in Miracles. Comment. Here is an anecdote that I did not mention in the original version of this book. In the year 2000 I went to A Course in Miracles study group in Orlando, Florida, just curious to see what the teaching was about. I lasted maybe 2 weeks because I kept bringing all of my metaphysical understandings, and the facilitator of that group finally said to me, "Look, I have been as patient as I can. But A Course in Miracles is not about what you are talking about. Therefore, this course may not be for you," and I left. Again, that's when in November 2007 I was open and ready for the teachings of the course. What attracted me to the course is that it is not a religion, it is not even a roadmap to help me find or even look for answers. All it did was lead me to the understanding that no possible intellectual answer can guide me to freedom. And there is a reason for that, which this book will address later on. Now I would like to share the introduction of A Course in Miracles just so that you get an idea of what the course is about according to my understanding. But before doing so, I invite you to keep the following two things in mind. First, the principles contained herein can be applied and utilized by anyone without having to be a student of the course. All that is required is an open heart and the willingness to let the love that is within do the work. And second, I am not attempting to promote a course in miracles. I am sharing my experience with this material in case it can help those who, like me, desire peace above all things. Comment: as of today's date, March of 2024, it has been a little over 15 years since I wrote the original version of this book. From this point forward, the rewriting begins. End of comment. Introduction of A Course in Miracles. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summarized up very simply in this way: nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. End of introduction. This is how I interpret the course's introduction, sentence by sentence. First sentence: this is a course in miracles. If in that sentence we take the word course and substitute it for the word journey, or process, and we take the word miracles and substitute it for the word undoing, that first sentence would read: this is a process in undoing. And what is it that is being undone? Fear. I could have also said ego, but I will address ego in a later chapter. Second sentence: it is a required course. This sentence does not imply that A Course in Miracles itself is a required course. What this implies is that the undoing of fear is required. Because for us to experience the love that we are, fear must be eradicated. Some people may be drawn or inspired to study A Course in Miracles, while others are drawn or inspired by other sources. Third sentence: only the time you take it is voluntary. Let's begin by remembering that our experience as individuals is one of separation and, consequently, of fear. A time comes in our lives when we begin to wonder if there is something more. Not everyone is ready for this recognition simultaneously, although sooner or later they will. As the Course reminds me, tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. Eventually everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be a better way. End of excerpt. In a sense, it implies that we decide when to embark on the path of undoing fear. But since pain, suffering, or lack of fulfillment is what generally pushes us to seek a higher ground, sort of speak, this idea that is voluntary, I see it as a humorous way of saying, whether you like it or not, you are going to end up choosing love over fear at some point in your experience. It reminds me of the following excerpt from the Course. If you want to be like me, I will help you, knowing that we are alike. If you want to be different, I will wait until you change your mind. End of excerpt. Fourth sentence: free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. What is the curriculum? Our life's experience. There seems to be a lot of debate regarding free will. However, as you read the content of this book, you will start questioning if there is such thing as free will for the individual. But it is too early to elaborate on it. Regardless of what anyone believes about the concept of free will, the fact is, whatever is happening in our life is what is happening. The question is, are we at peace with what is happening, or not? Fifth sentence: it means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. This statement implies that whatever is happening in our lives, that is to say, our curriculum, we decide if we want to learn the lesson. And the lesson would be that we can experience peace despite whatever the curriculum may bring. Sixth sentence: the Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. In this statement is making a clear distinction that love is not something that can be taught, for love is who we truly are. But it is overlooked by who we think we are. We believe to be separate individuals, which is the cause of all fear. And yet, who we are, is oneness, also known as love. But we need to elaborate more on that. but trust me when I say that by the time you finish reading this book, it will become clear. 7th sentence, it does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. Since love is who we are, all the course is doing is removing what has been superimposed on it so that our natural inheritance, love, can be revealed. It is like when you are sleeping at night and having a dream. For you to become conscious of the fact that you are the dreamer of the dream and not the figure in it, the dream, that is to say, obstacle, has to be removed. Once the dream is removed, what is left? The dreamer of the dream. But for a mind that is identified with the dream, the disappearing of the dream is interpreted as death. So, the obstacle to be removed, while the mind still perceives the dream, is the belief that the dream is its reality. In our human experience, the obstacles that need to be removed are the interpretations the mind is making about the dream that reinforces the belief in separation, which is the cause of fear. Once fear is removed, the consequence is not death, is liberation. 8th sentence, the opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This is a very crucial statement, for it establishes the course as a non-dual teaching. First begins by stating that the opposite of love is fear. The word opposite implies that there are two things. But then, it reiterates that what is all-encompassing can have no opposites, therefore canceling the first part of the statement. Is like when in the Bible it is said that God is omnipresent, omniscient, the only power that there is, yet, then the idea of a devil shows up in opposition to it. See the obvious contradiction? Last 4 sentences. This course can therefore be summarized up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Getting back to the analogy of the dream. The one in bed sleeping, the dreamer of the dream, is the only thing that is real and cannot be threatened by anything that takes place in the dream. That is what is meant by nothing real can be threatened. Then the figure in the dream, along with the dream itself, is not real, therefore it does not exist. That is what is meant by nothing unreal exists. That understanding is all that is needed for the dreamer of the dream to experience peace. That is what is meant by herein lies the peace of God. If the course can be summarized in those few sentences, why does it seem so difficult to come to that recognition? Because we strongly believe that we are separate individuals and that this world is our reality. And all the senses testify to that belief. Therefore, to undo our belief system we need help that is not from this world, as the course reminds me. When you have been caught in the world of perception, you are caught in a dream. You cannot escape without help, because everything your senses show merely witnesses to the reality of the dream. God has provided the answer, the only way out, the true helper. It is the function of His voice, His Holy Spirit, to mediate between the two worlds. End of excerpt. In a later chapter, I will talk about His voice, the Holy Spirit. Now is the time to talk about what, or who, is the course speaking to.
Well, that was the introduction. Hope you enjoyed it. Now, what I would like to say is that if you purchase the softcover version of the book or the Kindle version, each Course in Miracles excerpt, you will notice that it's in smaller text, and also at the end of each, it has a reference as to where to find it in A Course in Miracles. In the audio version, you will notice that I said end of excerpt or end of comment, and the reason being is because if I would have said, for example, text, section 4, paragraph 3, sentences 1 and 2, I feel that it would have interrupted the natural flow of the audio listening experience. That's why I did it that way. Now, having said that, I would like to read the conclusion of this book. Conclusion. A Course in Miracles is an extensive body of work with an uncanny ability to say the same thing over and over again in 1,000+ pages with flawless precision and without any contradiction. As its message is being comprehended, it is seen that all that is doing is looking at the ego's thought system from every possible angle, unveiling its mask. Then, in a kind and loving manner, the Holy Spirit undoes its belief system and consequently restores the mind to peace, to truth.
I did not write this book as an attempt to simplify or even clarify the course's teaching. Although it was written through me, I know it was written for me, because in the end, there is only one. But from a non-dualistic perspective, there is not even one. It simply is. God is. Unlike the example I shared at the beginning of this book about the surfer, no matter how many times he falls off the board, his destiny is to become a surfer. In the same way, no matter how many mistakes I make, writing this book is part of what I'm destined to do. However, what I can say is that it was written with love, honesty, and integrity, based not only on my understanding of the course's theory, but most importantly, my practice and experience in applying what the course teaches. Having said that, if you have been inspired to read this book, please note that it is not a substitute for A Course in Miracles. Another thing I would like to add, it is not uncommon that in the beginning, because of resistance, people who love to read claim that when picking up the course, they start to feel sleepy, finding themselves putting it down, or stopping reading it altogether. Interestingly enough, some of the most common stories I hear are from people who say that they bought the course or someone gave it to them and it's been sitting on their bookshelf for years, and now they're ready to pick it up. We also need to be aware that when we begin with the course, once again, because of resistance, it is with the ego's thought system that we are reading it, thus finding ourselves misinterpreting its message. But as we persevere, inspired by a true desire for peace, the mind heals through the help of the Holy Spirit's guidance. And each time we return to the course, we are no longer confused, but nourished by its words. The message is clearly understood, and we cannot help but to feel happy and blessed. Before bringing this conclusion to an end, if you have resonated with what life has led me to share through these words, allow your experience to bear witness to the validity of the information contained in this book. Ultimately, for healing to take place, and therefore for you to experience true peace, I leave you with the following suggestion from the Holy Spirit, taken from A Course in Miracles workbook for students. Simply do this. Be still and lay aside all thoughts of what you are and what God is. All concepts you have learned about the world, all images you hold about yourself. Empty your mind of everything it thinks it's either true or false, good or bad, of every thought it judges worthy, and all the ideas of which it is ashamed. Hold on to nothing. Do not bring with you one thought the past has taught, nor one belief you've ever learned before from anything. Forget this world, forget this course, and come with wholly empty hands unto your God. I love you, and I thank you. The end of this book, but the beginning of a journey back home, back to the place you never left.
Well, that was the conclusion of the book. Now, what I would like to say in closing is that if you happen to have a copy of the original version of this book, it's imperative that you purchase this one. Trust me that when you read this one, you will not only notice a significant difference and clarity, but you also are going to feel it. If, on the other hand, you never purchase a copy of this book, then I leave that up to you, because I make this video just to let you know that the book is available. With that said, I just want you to have a happy, peaceful, and loving life.